and big waves out there. Happy Monday, happy Monday, happy Monday. I think we're all just a little bit excited. Oh, Anita, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about the wildfire, and we are going to miss you so much. And I hate that I'm kind of getting some of the last minute family emergency. These things are happening, that thing that happened, and people aren't able to make it. And I'm so sad for y'all, but we'll be praying for you. And if something happens, you can join us. Come on over. Our word today is courtesy of Cynthia Murray. So guys, keep these words coming because one, it makes me think a little bit, a little bit harder to come up with new words or to do a new word, but then it's a little bit easier because then I'm not trying to get super creative is what happens. I'm like, okay, we've got to do a word that we haven't done. And I'll tell you, with my vocabulary, that's very hard when you've been doing this for 4 years. Like I need to really expand. So you guys are helping with that. So thank you so much for that. So the word today is generous. And we do have a birthday out there, but I don't know if he gets on here. I'm trying to see if I can see him. I don't see him today. So if you guys are friends with Ed Hodge, if you've got his number, if you can send him a little bit of love, today is his birthday. So send him some love. And then again, guys, if we're not friends with you on Facebook, we can't stalk you and see your birthday. So friend us, send us a message. Let us know it's your birthday because we want to celebrate each and every one of you. But the word today is generous. And that's one of the ways that we want to be generous is we want to share our beautiful voices with you on your birthday. That's so generous of us. But the word today is generous. And the definition is showing a readiness to give more of something that then is strictly necessary or expected, showing kindness towards others. Or if it's something, we can say it's larger or more plentiful than what might be expected. So none of that is like super exciting, I guess, in terms of definitions, but it's what it is. And what I'm going to say is being generous is one of those things that just makes our heart happy, right? You ever feel that where you're like, oh, I was able to give just a smidge in whatever situation, and you walk out of there feeling so pleased, right? Maybe you gave that extra hug or you tipped a little bit bigger or whatever it is. But when we are able and we're in a position to be a little bit more generous than perhaps normal, it makes us happy. And in multiple studies, okay, so multiple studies, they've found that, and scientists are I don't know which scientists, this is what was on the interwebs. So just so you know, they find that people who spent money on others, even though they had the option to spend it on themselves, were happier. And that cracks me up because I think about giving my kids, anybody else do this? Like around Christmas time, you'll give your kids a little bit of money and like maybe you take them to the mall or you take them to Target or whatever. And I'm like, okay, go do your Christmas shopping, get it done. And then we'll meet back here and they'll come back and, depending on the age, they found this for themselves and that for themselves and that for themselves. And they forgot that they had a list that they were going to get for other people. So they didn't quite get that lesson yet. So maybe this lesson comes with a little bit of maturity. When we get a little bit older, we can find the joy in that. But there is definite power in being generous. So first of all, being generous allows us to help others. Next, it inspires generosity. You ever see that? I think I'm hopefully a pretty good example of this. I don't know if you guys know this, but I've had the opportunity to dine out with Coach Palmer in groups like 1,000 times over the last 15 years. And he is the most generous in terms of picking up the tabs for other people and when he tips the staff. And so I'll tell you, my little cheap self, I'm like, I got this. I'm good. I don't need to, but it's really helped me expand. And hey, you know what? I'm in a place that I can grab their supper for them. So I'm going to do it. Or I'm in a place that I can add a couple extra dollars to the tip. So I'm going to do it because I was inspired by that action from somebody else. Next, being generous teaches us responsibility. And it shows us that this world is about more than just me, right? It's about other people as well. Being generous helps us cultivate a stronger self-worth, because when we have the ability to give a little bit, and we're not just talking money, so we'll get there, but when we can give a little bit, it makes us feel a little bit more valuable ourselves, right? And then lastly, it just makes us happy. It just feels good. So the quote that I found was, never suppress a generous thought. And then whatever you decide to give, know that a pure spirit and a generous heart can be your own path to real happiness. And so that kind of inspired me to look into ways that we can be generous in a way that doesn't cost a dime, because sometimes we can't, right? Sometimes we just can't. We don't have 2 nickels. I can think of plenty of times in my life that I did not have 2 nickels. And if you asked me for anything financially, I was going to have to say, I'm so sorry, I can't. But what I would offer is I could babysit your kiddos, or I could give a generous ear, or there were other ways that we could give. So that's what I looked into. So how can we be generous even when, or, even on top of giving financially, what can we do? So first of all, we can be generous with kindness. Little acts of kindness, big acts of kindness, small or insignificant, doesn't matter. It creates that positive ripple effect in our world. And we've seen it, right? You ever have somebody smile at you? I had this just the other day. I'll tell you, I've told you this before. I love Southern gas stations. I really do. You walk out of a Southern gas station feeling like $1,000,000. Why? Somebody opened the door when you walked in. The cashier was super friendly and kind and acted like they were so grateful you were there. Somebody opened the door for you when you left. You're skipping to your car because you're like, wow, what a beautiful, lovely world we live in. And when we do that for others, go open that door, give your smile, all of that, it creates that ripple effect where we all just feel a little bit better. Next, we can be generous with our empathy. Sometimes we can walk around, and you guys know this about me. I'm a black and white person. I have a hard time with gray. I really do. But this world is so gray. There's so much gray in this world. So if I can give empathy and understanding and really try, let me walk in your shoes for a minute. Let me really fight to try to see this from your perspective. Because you know what? Shocker, I'm not always right. I hate to even say it out loud because I sometimes disagree with that statement, because sometimes I really think I am. But you know what? I'm wrong all day, every day, in a million different ways. So if we can really build that connection and have that sense of empathy with others, that's a great way that we can be generous. Next is our time. Volunteer. Call your folks. This is one I got to say to myself, because I'm like, okay, I've got to set up my whole world, because if I call my dad, he's so sweet, but I can't be doing anything else. If he hears the water running or a dish or a dog bark or anything, he gets completely derailed in the conversation. He gets very grumpy with me because I am not giving him my undivided attention. So I've got to give my time. So I've got to sit down, map out that time that I'm just going to sit and listen to my dad tell me all the things that he told me the week before. And that's okay, because that's a way that I can be generous with my poor dad and give some prayers. Both my parents are sick right now. Next, we can do community service, just different ways that we can give our time to others. Babysit those babies for, your grandbabies or your neighbors or your friends, whatever it may be, because that generosity of that time is such a gift and such a blessing for other people. Next, we can be generous with ourselves and actually sharing our authentic self, our mess, right? We talk about this all the time. Our mess is our message, but nobody wants to put it out there, right? We don't necessarily want to share all the ways that we feel like we don't quite measure up. But when we do that, it's a way that we can be generous with others and allow them to have that gift of comfort, right? You ever have somebody say something and you're like, oh my gosh, me too? And you feel so much better, right? You're like, oh, I can relate to that. We can give that comfort to others, and we can create connection through our imperfections, because that's a great way that we can connect. Next, we can be generous with our encouragement. Either, the atta girls, right? Good job, good job. I'm so proud of you. Or, you know what? You've got this. I know it's hard right now, but just keep going, right? Whatever it is, let's be generous with both sides. Next is our forgiveness. Anybody on here happen to hold a grudge? Anybody? Just me? I did not speak to my brother for 3 years when I was late high school, early college, because I was mad. And I held that grudge for a long time. And I swear it might have been longer than 3 years. I was in my 20s before I decided, okay, this is harming me more than it's harming anybody else. So let's offer a little bit of forgiveness. So if we can let go of those grudges and practice forgiveness with people, it promotes healing and harmony, both for ourselves and for that other person. Next, we can be generous with our education. So we can share knowledge and the things that we've learned, right? Everybody on here has some kind of skill set. All of you have been so generous offering to teach me how to drive a tractor. I'm so grateful. I'm gonna make it happen. And I'm gonna be generous and I'll teach you how to build a flyer in Canva. I don't know, but I will teach you something that I know how to do because it's a way that I can contribute and be a little bit more generous. Next is respect. So if we treat every single human, regardless of who they are, their station in life, what's going on, if we're generous with our respect, that's a great way that we can foster more inclusion, just help this whole world, everybody we're in contact with, just feel a little bit better, right? And we've seen it, right? Where we're like, oh goodness, I probably wasn't the most respectful in that moment. I need to work on that a little bit better. And then lastly, we want to be generous with being a positive influence. So if we can go out there today and do something good and kind of let the world see it, that's a great way that we can be generous. So whatever we decide to give, oh, I think I already said this, so never mind, just kidding. But just whatever we decide to give, we want to know it with a pure spirit, a generous heart, and that was worth repeating because that is our path to real happiness. So love you guys. Coach wanted to be on here today, but he got a call from one of the owners and he's like, this is going to take a minute. So we're so grateful that he's got the ear of our owners and he's bringing stuff back to us. And I'm just grateful that I got to spend this time. So if you guys know Ed Hodge, go give him some love, wish him happy birthday. But I love you guys and safe travels to everybody scooting about this.
Bye. Have a